Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Our today's session is on a new novel that would be a part of our course, and that is Great Expectations. In today's session I would give you an introduction to the author Charles Dickens and the novel Great Expectations itself. Before I start with today's session, I would quickly share a review of the previous session. Well, our previous session was the last session on Jane Austen's novel Emma. We finished the novel Emma. We looked at the themes in the context, how they developed and how text supported those themes. Important aspects of characterization was discussed, and towards the very end of the session we had some crucial questions that we discussed with reference to the novel Emma. As far as today's session is concerned, as I have already said, in this session we would start a new novel. The novel to study now is Great Expectations. Charles Dickens is the author of Great Expectations, and I would introduce you to Charles Dickens. Then we would talk about the times when Great Expectations was written. Of course, I would talk about the setting of the novel so that you could understand the context in which the story would develop. Genre and form of the novel would also be discussed, plot and structure of the novel, and introduction to characters that are important characters in the novel would be also given here, so that you are ready and prepared to understand the novel as you go through the text. So we would start with an introduction to Charles Dickens, who is the author of Great Expectations. Well, Charles Dickens was born on February 7, 1812 in Portsmouth, England. His father's name was John Dickens, while mother's name was Elizabeth Dickens. He was the second of 8 children. His mother had been in service to Lord Crewe, and his father worked as a clerk for the Naval Pay Office. Thus, Dickens was born with an unprivileged socio-economic background, with the stigma that his ancestors were illiterate servants. His father was poor but was eager to climb the social ladder. Dickens' childhood was subsequently a rocky journey. There were a lot of moves and financial crises. Thus, till his early teenage, he was living in a small house while his parents had no money to send him to school. Dear students, I believe that understanding the circumstances of the writer in which he or she is born and is brought up, is educated and lives, this understanding helps in understanding the texts written by that author. So I hope that this background that I am just sharing with you about Charles Dickens would help you understand the kind of themes that he has presented in his works, why he has chosen those themes, and why he has presented them in the particular way he has presented. So far, what we have understood about Charles Dickens is that he was from a lower social class and he had a very unprivileged kind of childhood, which did not have the benefits of the upper class lifestyle or luxury. Continuing on Charles Dickens' early life, I would say that to help his family, Charles was sent to work in a rat-infested shoe polish factory, where he worked 12-hour days a day sticking labels on pots of polish. This job seemed to scare something in the young Dickens, perhaps showing him how easily one's hopes and ambitions could be cast aside by circumstance. He later recounted these experiences in the semi-autobiographical novel David Copperfield. Similarly, the concern for social justice and reform, which surfaced later in his writings, grew out of the hard conditions and the harsh realities he experienced in this warehouse where he was working. I would also like to say that as I would start sharing the novel and its text with you, you would realize that child abuse, that is one of the major themes, and need for social justice, that is another major theme of the work. They have their roots in the personal experiences of childhood that Dickens had. So Dickens passed his early years of life under all the financial pressures. At the age of 16, Dickens got himself a job as a court reporter, and shortly thereafter he joined the staff of A Mirror of Parliament, a newspaper that reported on the decisions of Parliament. This was the time when he entered into writing, so we can say that at very tender age he started writing. Some of his character sketches were accepted into monthly magazines. These were gathered later into a book which sold well. From there, Dickens launched his lifelong career as a novelist. During this time, Charles Dickens continued to read voraciously at the British Library. These extensive readings are well reflected in his writings. और वो जो कहते हैं ना कि पढ़ा हुआ कभी भी ज़ाया नहीं जाता, so whatsoever he read, it helped him mature his thought, and that maturity is reflected later on all his writings. He also experimented with acting and stage, managing amateur theatricals. His experience of acting naturally affected his work throughout his life. He is known to act out characters he was writing in the Mirror and then describe himself as the character in prose in his novels. Anyhow, it was not an easy journey for Dickens. To establish his career and to make himself financially strong, he worked hard. He devoted long hours to the theatre and publication business. Soon he was disillusioned with politics. Dickens then developed an interest in social reform and began contributing to the True Sun, that was a radical newspaper of the times. Although his main avenue of work would consist of writing novels, Dickens continued his journalistic work until the end of his life, editing the Daily News, Household Words, and all the year round. And again, I would say that his experience of editing materials in these newspapers helped him a lot in structuring the text of his novels. His connections to various magazines and newspapers as a political journalist gave him the opportunity to begin publishing his own fiction at the beginning of his career. Most of his books were published serially in magazines during his lifetime, and it was only later on that they were given the form of books proper. Dickens published some of his best-known novels, including A Tale of Two Cities and Great Expectations, in his own weekly periodicals. Dickens worked hard. He worked hard as a journalist, he worked hard as an editor, and he worked hard as a novelist. So within a few years, he was regarded as one of the most successful authors of his times, with approximately 1 out of every 10 people in Victorian England avidly reading and following his writings. As far as Dickens' personal life is concerned, in 1836, Dickens married Catherine Hogarth, the daughter of a fellow co-worker at his newspaper. The couple had 10 children before their separation in 1858. It takes a lot of time to develop maturity in writing, so like all other writers, Dickens' writings matured with the passage of time. His travels abroad played a vital role in bringing this maturity. सफ़र वसीला ज़फ़र कहा जाता है, और कहा जाता है कि you learn through traveling. So the more he traveled, the more he learned, the more he learned, the more it was reflected in his works. His visits in the 1840s, first to America and then through Europe, marked the beginning of a new stage in Dickens' life as a writer. His writings became longer and more serious. In David Copperfield, that was written in 1849 and 50, readers find the same flawed world that Dickens discovered as a young boy presented in a more mature way. Actually, David Copperfield is termed to be one of his autobiographical novels, where a lot of his personal experiences, especially the financial crisis and the child abuse that he suffered through his childhood, is presented. In total, he wrote 15 novels. Death of Charles Dickens. Dickens' health began to deteriorate in the 1860s. In 1858, in response to his increasing fame, he had begun public readings of his books. These travels badly affected his health, since he had to travel from one place to the other to do these public readings. This extensive traveling his health could not bear. An immensely profitable but physically shattering series of readings in America in 1867 and 1868 added to the speed of his health decline. Under this much physical stress and lot of traveling, he collapsed during a farewell series in England. It was finally on June 9, 1870 that Charles Dickens died. He was buried in Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey and was laid under a tombstone that read, "England's most popular author." More than a century later, his books continue to charm and engage young children and eminent literary critics alike. And when we say that young children, actually it is not restricted to young children only. From teenagers to mature people in their middle ages, to the people who have lived their life and have experienced every harsh or bitter reality of life, to everybody these books are equally a source of inspiration and a source of interest. When we come to the important works of Dickens, I would say, though he left The Mystery of Edwin Drood unfinished, he had already written 15 substantial novels and countless shorter pieces of writing that he left. His more popular works include Oliver Twist, that was written in 1838. A Christmas Carol, that was written in 1843. David Copperfield, that was published in 1849. In the same way, Hard Times, that was published in 1854, and A Tale of Two Cities, that was published in 1859. His work, Great Expectations, was published in 1860. Though Charles Dickens died, his works continue to attract, inspire, and amaze the readers of English novel today. And readers of all ages, all times, are interested in Dickens' wonderful readings. I hope this background of the author, his life and his struggle through the years of his life would help you understand when he presents some themes in his work, Great Expectations. With this, I bring you to an introduction that I'm going to give to you about Great Expectations. As I have already said, it is written by Charles Dickens. When it comes to the type of work, it is a serialized story turned into a novel. It was initially published in his own magazine, and it was first published in 1860, April 1861, in weekly installments in a magazine, July 1861 as a novel in 3 volumes, and then November 1862 as a whole novel. So the novel was published again and again, taking different forms and shapes, first published in installments, in episodes in a magazine, then in volumes, and finally in 1862 as a complete novel. As far as the setting of the novel is concerned, the setting of the novel is in early 1800s, and it is 1800s London, in fact, England and around the marshes of Kent. Continuing on the introduction to Great Expectations, I would say that Great Expectations, that was written in 1860, was initially published serially but under a stricter length requirement, and is considered a more polished example of Dickens' works. Well, it is very natural that when a writer has to write episodes of a piece of a longer fiction such as a novel, and these episodes are published weekly or fortnightly or monthly in installments in some magazine, the result is that the author has to be very, very careful in terms of plot and structure. He or she has to construct the plot in a way that every time that the episode or installment comes to an end, it is left at a point that generates curiosity in the reader, so that the reader buys the next magazine to read the next installment or the next episode. Secondly, in terms of length requirements, the writer has to be very, very specific. A specific number of pages or a specific space is allocated to the particular installment or episode that is published in a particular magazine. So the writer has to write some quantity of material that fits into that space. And I would say that Charles Dickens is considered to be a very, very polished writer, in the sense that he had complete and firm grip over what he wrote. It is a comparatively slim Dickens volume 2 at just under 600 pages. Yes, when we compare the length of Great Expectations with other works of Charles Dickens, we agree that many of his works are far, far more lengthy as compared to this work. However, approximately 500 to 600 pages make the text of this novel. Like much of Charles Dickens' work, Great Expectations was first published in a popular magazine in regular installments of a few chapters each. Many of the novel's chapters end with a lack of dramatic resolution, which was intended to encourage readers to buy the next installment. This supports the same claim that I made a bit earlier about when somebody writes in installments for some magazine. This leads us to the times when Great Expectations was written. Well, Great Expectations was written in early Victorian England setting. In other words, I would say that it is set in early Victorian England. It was a time when great social changes were sweeping the nation. A lot of socio-economic and political changes were taking place. The Industrial Revolution of the late 18th and early 19th century had transformed the social landscape, enabling capitalists and manufacturers to amass huge fortunes. The kind of life that we discussed with reference to Jane Austen's Emma, where people would be more concerned with the life in the rural areas, with the life where high class is determined on the basis of the land, on the basis of the estates that one owns. Now this novel Great Expectations, written by Charles Dickens, shows the change that was coming. If you remember the family of the Coles in Emma, that was written by Jane Austen, actually this was a family that made money from trade. So sharing these times here, Charles Dickens also refers to the Industrial Revolution that was taking place. People were getting rich, they were making money from other sources that were other than the ownership of land. Although social class was no longer entirely dependent on the circumstances of one's birth, the deviance between the rich and the poor, however, remained nearly as wide as ever. As far as the setting of the novel is concerned, the action of Great Expectations takes place in a limited geography between a small village at the edge of the North Kent marshes. a market town in which Satis House is located, and the greater city of London. The protagonist, Pip, grows up in the marsh village. Eventually, he becomes a frequent visit to Satis House, located in the market town. Upon inheriting a good deal of money, he moves to London, where he is taught to be a gentleman. Throughout the novel, Pip travels between these three locations in pursuit of his great expectations. As far as the genre and form of the novel is concerned, well, it is a Bildungsroman, that is a German word, that is a novel of formation. Sometimes this genre is named as coming-of-age story. When we say coming-of-age story, it means it focuses on the psychological and moral growth of the protagonist or of the hero from youth to adulthood, so in it character changes are extreme, and they are of great importance. I would like to explain a bit more when this particular type of novel, that is called the novel of coming-of-age story, or the novel of formation as well. In this kind of novel, generally the life history of the protagonist is traced, and what the writer does is that he or she shows the protagonist passing through different phases of life, from childhood to boyhood or girlhood to adulthood, and thus getting maturity and being developed as a character. In form, Great Expectations fits a pattern popular in 19th century European fiction, the Bildungsroman, or novel depicting growth and personal development, as I have said earlier. Generally a transition from boyhood to manhood, such as that experienced by Pip. This implies that in this novel, Great Expectations, again we would see Pip, the protagonist or the main character, from his childhood, moving through his boyhood and finally entering into his manhood and developing and learning and getting matured with the passage of time. The genre was popularized by Goethe with his book Wilhelm Meister 1794 to 1796, and became prevalent in England with such books as Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, and Dickinson's own David Copperfield. Each of these works, like Great Expectations, depicts a process of maturity and self-discovery through experience as a protagonist moves from childhood to adulthood. As a genre, this novel that he has written is a true representation of the Victorian literature, and it is also a social commentary on the times. It shows the social, economic and political situations of the times, important themes that are addressed, which include child abuse, which include social class distinction, which includes social justice. All of these are a commentary on the times and a kind of critical evaluation what was taking place on the social fronts. As far as the plot and structure of the novel is concerned, analyzing the plot and structure, I would say that Charles Dickens is said to have explored a new ground in his novel Great Expectations. The theme of self-knowledge explored in the novel expresses in part Dickens' own search for a sense of self. As you would see that through the events and happenings that take place, and through the events that Pip would pass, you would see that he explores himself. This is a journey of self-knowledge, this is a journey of self-exploration, and in the autobiographical sense of the novel, it actually reflects upon the journey of Charles Dickens that he had in terms of self-exploration. Many readers and historians have suggested that Pip has a touch of Dickens in him, making the fictional book feel almost autobiographical. Structurally, the novel is a narration by a mature and retrospective Pip. When I say that it is a narration by a mature and retrospective Pip, what I mean by this is that story is told by Pip himself as the narrator, However, the time point when he is telling the story is far in future from where he is looking back at his past when he was a child or when he was a young boy, and he recalls and states all that he experienced or all that he went through. The novel is divided into three distinct stages of his development, each labeled as a specific stage of Pip's expectations. In a chronological sequence, these chapters trace Pip's progress from a child to an adolescent and young adult. This is a journey of acceptance of his true place in the society. In terms of plot and structure, it is also a journey from a small town to city and then back to town, completing the full circle. Before I move forward, this journey of Pip from a small village or town to city and then back to town, completing the circle, reminds us of Joseph Andrews that we read, that is written by Henry Fielding. There also we saw Joseph Andrews, the protagonist, going through the same, moving from a small town or a village from the countryside to the city life, to London, and then a journey back from London to the country seat of Lady Booby, where back to the rural life he completes the circle of his learning and reaches back to his origin. Same happens in this story as well. Continuing on the structure and plot of the novel, I would like to discuss the three stages. The first stage introduces all the major characters and sets the plot in motion. Pip is introduced and his situation and context are developed fully. Even we are told about the first seeds of his desire to be uncommon. And this expectation that one day he would become great, this ironically becomes the complete falling flat of the great expectations. This leads to the revelation by Mr. Jaggers, the lawyer, that Pip is to inherit a huge fortune and become a gentleman. This sounds miraculous as well as mysterious to Pip, and in this part gradually Pip's expectations of himself rise as the plot develops. The second stage of Pip's expectations involves a change of setting. In this section, Pip's development into a gentleman is explored. This stage describes the spendthrift and idle way Pip squanders wealth and what kind of person he has become. On the surface of things, Pip believes that he is living up to his great expectations. He also has the expectation that he will be able to marry Estella. However, this stage of his expectations is completely shattered when the benefactor discloses his identity to Pip, and the ironic meaning of the title becomes obvious. This leads to the third stage of plot development. In this stage, Pip's expectations in terms of, exploring his identity are complete collapse, and making him realize how false his expectations were. The old and false expectations are replaced by a new and more mature perspective on life. We see in him developing a sense of life and respectability. This section mainly constitutes his transformation, which has been at the heart of the novel. Such a pattern of growth, development and re-education reflects the Bildungsroman tradition of great expectations, where we are shown the whole process of development of the protagonist. The novel, though divided into these three stages, is further divided into episodic characters due to the publication of the novel serially. Each chapter must necessarily have a complete movement as well as some sort of trigger that will induce the reader to buy the magazine the following week, in which he would or she would expect to see the next happenings. So with an understanding of the plot and structural development of the novel, we move forward to see what are the important themes of Great Expectations. As far as the important themes that are incorporated in Great Expectations by Charles Dickens are concerned, they include social justice, number 2, the theme of child abuse, number 3, the theme of self-deception. Number 4, the theme of fear and guilt. Number 5, the theme of relationships. Number 6, the theme of snobbery and vanity. And finally, the last one, the theme of false great expectations. Well, we would discuss each of these themes one by one and would explore them to some extent here. However, later on, as we would be going through different chapters of the novel with relation to the text, we would explore these in detail. Coming towards the first theme, that is of social injustice. Social injustice and class distinction or class division was an area of writing that was very close to the heart of Charles Dickens. It was because of his personal unprivileged socio-economic background and his unprivileged childhood that he felt it very close to his heart. In almost all his works, we find social injustice as one of the major themes. He points out social injustice and so-called class distinction as one of the major flaws of the society of his times. In this novel, again, we would see Pip, the protagonist, fighting against the troubles that are created through this social injustice and class distinction. His visits to Satis house, his meetings with Miss Havisham and with Estella, as you would be introduced to the characters, you would come to know about them. All those clearly mark a sense of social injustice in Pip. The troubles that he has to face, the corruption that he has to come across, and in his journey from the country life to the city life, what happens to him, this is all a commentary on the social injustice of Dickens' times. The second important theme of Great Expectations, as written by Charles Dickens, is concerned. The theme is of child abuse. Pip is an example of this child abuse, and he also stands for Charles Dickens as well, for what he experienced in his personal life. At the very young age, just to provide bread for his family, he had to work in a shoe factory, where all the day he would work there, in fact working for 12 or more than 12 hours just to label the boxes of polish. This was his work at that rat-infested factory, as I have already shared with you. This was such crucial and such a negative experience of his life that Charles Dickens couldn't get rid of this idea throughout his life, and it is reflected again and again in his works. So when it comes to Great Expectations, through the character of Pip, how he has to face all the blows of fortune and how he has to face all those socio-economic pressures and the family pressures as a child, this is all mentioned when Charles Dickens presents the theme of child abuse in this novel. We are shown that Pip is very young, he is very weak, he is very much frightened, he is raised by hand by his sister, he is terrified to face people when he, out of fear and out of the pressure of the convict, he has to steal bread and file for him. And these fears continue through his life and have a strong impact on his personality. The next theme that is important with reference to this work is of self-deception. Actually, I would say that the journey of Pip in Great Expectations is a journey of illusionment and then disillusionment. It is a journey of self-deception and then recovering from that self-deception. That is the journey of self-deception that leads towards self-knowledge by the end of the novel. Pip has false expectations about himself, self-deception about his place, about his talent, and about his very self, is what leads him, rather I would say what misleads him through all the events and happenings of the novel. It is this self-deception that leads to having the hopes and expectations that he would marry Estella. It is the same that leads him to be settled very well in England, but the result of all this self-deception is that he has to suffer at every stage. Through the learning and through the lessons that he takes as he passes through different stages of life, he finally realizes his flaws. The journey of disillusionment starts. He starts looking at things with a far more open eye. He starts looking at things through a far clearer lens, and this journey of self-knowledge then brings him to know his flaws completely and to understand how he can have real happiness and joy in his life. Another important theme is of fear and guilt. Fear and guilt go hand in hand throughout the novel, especially the first part of the novel, the first volume or the first section, where in the initial chapters we find Pip as a child who struggles against his fear that he has of his sister, that he has of Mr. Pumblechook and other characters around, for example, who come to the dinner. The fear that the convict generates in him, the burden of all these fears is to be carried by the weak shoulders of Pip. It is out of the fear of the convict that he steals food for him. He steals some pieces of bread and the pie that is made for the guests. He also steals a file that is to be given to the convict to cut his iron shackles. The ultimate impact of this fear is guilt. He feels guilty, and throughout the dinner party, for example, that is mentioned in the very first part of the novel, we find that he is constantly under pressure, because what he feels is that there would be any moment when the family, especially when the sister, would come to know about the reality of his stealing the food and the file. This guilt continues throughout the story, and what we notice is that in the episodes related to Miss Havisham and Estella, the same guilt is there. As he goes to London and gets settled there after getting his fortune, the same guilt prevails with reference to his relationship to Joe, with whom he does not behave very well. And actually we see it taking him through all the suffering that he has to suffer through the novel. The next important theme that is presented by Charles Dickens as a moralist is theme of relationships. This theme is very much related to the theme of self-deception as well. It is only through the bitter experiences that Pip has to bear that he comes out of this self-deception and he realizes the worth of relationships. The nature of his relationship with Joe, the nature of his relationship with Mrs. Joe, the nature of relationship that he has with Estella, and many other characters in the novel. As you would come to read the novel, you would see how these relationships are established and how he has disillusionment regarding these relationships. This leads to the next theme, that is of snobbery and vanity. Pip's journey from the village to the city and then his journey back from the city to the town is a journey from purity of heart to snobbery and vanity, and then from this snobbery and vanity back to his very nature, that is pure-heartedness, that he comes back to the village to experience again. Pip has great expectations about himself, and when he gets a fortune and he is sent to the city, he becomes a snob. He turns into a snob and a very vain person because he considers himself of far superior in rank as compared to other people, such as Biddy or such as Joe or Mrs. Joe. This snobbery, however, is of no use for him, and at the end of the day he learns the lessons of life when his expectations prove to be false. This leads us towards the final theme of false great expectations. Well, the title of the novel, Great Expectations, indicates that he would have some expectations about life, about himself. However, as we go through the novel, it is proved that all these expectations are false. His expectation to become a gentleman, his expectation to have a fortune, his expectation to have good education, his expectation to live a sophisticated life in city, his expectation to meet and to marry Estella, all these expectations prove to be false, with the result that the title Great Expectations turns into an ironic one where it actually refers to false great expectations. As we would go through the text, we would explore the details of all of these themes that would recur in the text, that would come that we would come across again and again as we would go through the text. Well, I have introduced you to the major themes of the work. I think it would be a good idea to introduce you to the main characters so that when you start reading the text you have some idea of who is who. Here is an introduction of the major characters. The protagonist of the story is Pip, whose full name is Philip Perrip. Well, he is the narrator and hero of the novel. He is a sensitive orphan raised by his sister and brother-in-law in rural Kent. After showing kindness to an escaped convict, he becomes the beneficiary of a great estate. He rejects his common upbringing in favor of a more refined life in London, unaware that his benefactor is actually the convict. By the end of the novel, he learns a great lesson about friendship and loyalty and gives up his great expectations that actually are false great expectations in order to be more true to his past. Then there is the character of Joe Gargery. He is a simple and honest blacksmith and the long-suffering husband of Mrs. Joe, who is Pip's elder sister. So he is Pip's brother-in-law as well as a loyal friend and ally. He loves and supports Pip unconditionally. Even when Pip is ashamed of him and abandons him, you would see that Joe is always there to support. By the end of the novel, Pip realizes the true worth of Joe's friendship. Throughout the novel, he proves to be more of a friend than a parental guide or than a parent who would keep an eye on the child only. Another important character in the novel is of Miss Havisham. She is a bitter and eccentric old lady who was long ago cheated on her wedding day. She continues to wear her faded wedding gown despite the fact that it is old and yellowed. She still has the rotten wedding cake on her dining table, and twisted by her own hatred and resentment, she lives in cobwebbed darkness with her adopted daughter Estella, whom she has raised to be a man-hater, and she wants to use Estella to take revenge from all the men of the world. This brings us to Estella. She is the beautiful adopted daughter of Miss Havisham. She is a girl with a very cold heart. She has been brought up to wreak revenge on the male sex on Miss Havisham's behalf. She is honest with Pip when she tells him she is incapable of returning his love, because the way she is brought up has inculcated in her a hatred for men. Magovich, also known as Provis and Campbell in the story, he is an escaped convict who initially bullies Pip into bringing him food and a file. Unbeknownst to Pip, the convict later rewards him by bequeathing him a large amount of money anonymously. He comes back into Pip's life when Pip is an adult. revealing himself as the donor, and asks for help in escaping the death sentence he has been given as a result of his life of crime. And he would play a great role, I would say, in the self-deception and then disillusionment of Pip, and also in enabling Pip understand that all his expectations were, his great expectations were false. Well, apart from these main characters, there are some minor characters who play their role in the story and who support other characters and enable us to understand other characters as well. Amongst these characters is Mrs. Joe, who is Pip's sister. She is a short-tempered woman who resents Pip because he is a burden to her. She is attacked with a leg iron and spends the rest of her life unable to communicate because of a brain injury. And she learns to be patient and forgiving as a result of this attack. However, before this attack, we see that in the childhood of Pip, as it is shown in the early chapters of the novel, she believes in raising Pip by stick, and she is very harsh and very bitter towards him, and Pip always is frightened of her presence. Biddy Wopsle is another character. She is Pip's confidant and teacher. As a child, she develops a crush on Pip. She runs the house after Mrs. Joe's accident and later marries Joe. Then is Mr. Wopsle. He is a parish lay clerk who had formerly wanted to be a clergyman. He leaves his church to become a not-so-successful actor in London. His great expectations are in comic parallel to Pip's great expectations. Then there is the character of Mr. Pumblechook. Mr. Pumblechook is Joe's uncle. He joins Mrs. Joe in bullying and resenting Pip, then takes some credit for Pip's good fortune. Especially in the first half of the novel, we would see him always there as a source of terror for the young Pip, and he would always be there frightening Pip, bullying around, and accusing Pip for anything and everything that he would do. Well, as it is a very thick novel, there are a lot of characters, so many other minor characters are there, of which a few are here presented on this slide. Mr. and Mrs. Hubble, they are friends of Mrs. Joe. Then there is Orlick. He is Joe's employee. He is an evil character who attacks Mrs. Joe and also attempts to take Pip's life. Later he robs Mr. Pumblechook and ends up in jail. Then there is this character of Mr. Jaggers. He is a criminal lawyer in London, and actually when Pip comes to London, he meets him. He is well respected in his own dubious social circle and is most well known for his ability to defend even the dregs of society. He is the administrator of Pip's inheritance, so Pip has to come across him very frequently during his stay in London. There is then the character of Wemmick. He is Jagger's confidential clerk. He is a good-natured man in his personal life, but is incredibly stern and officious in his professional life. Pip often remarks that Wemmick has two personalities. He becomes an advisor and friend to Pip as Pip stays in London and meets him. Two more characters that I'm going to introduce are Herbert Pocket and Mr. Matthew Pocket. Well, as far as Herbert Pocket is concerned, Pip's elegant and artlessly optimistic best friend is Herbert Pocket. Though living in genteel poverty, he is an example of an uncommon gentleman. As far as Mr. Matthew Pocket is concerned, he is Pip's teacher and Herbert's father. He is a thoroughly educated gentleman under whom Pip is to learn. He is the only member of the family who does not flatter Mrs. Havisham. As a result, she is not very much happy with Mr. Matthew Pocket. Well, the list of minor characters is very long. I am going to introduce quickly you to a few more. There is Bentley Drummle, a suckling brute who eventually marries Estella, then mistreats her. Startop is a tenant of Mr. Pocket and a friend of Pip. Then there is Molly, Jagger's housekeeper. She was once accused of murder but acquitted. She turns out to be Estella's mother. We also come across Miss Skiffins. She is Wemmick's girlfriend and later bride. Then there is Clara, Herbert Pocket's girlfriend and later bride. We also come across three more characters, Mrs. Brandley, Mrs. Wimple and Compeyson. As far as Mrs. Brandley is concerned, the old widow with whom Estella lives in Richmond is Mrs. Brandley. Mrs. Wimple is an elderly woman at whose house Pip and Herbert lodge Megawitch in order to hide him. And the last character that I would like to introduce is of Compeyson, Megawitch's on-time partner in crime. It is his fault Megawitch is sentenced to prison. He becomes an informant to the police and helps recapture Megawitch. You would come across these characters in the novel in detail and you would see who does what and how contributes towards the development of the story. With this we come towards the end of today's session, in which I have tried to introduce you to the author of Great Expectations and to the work Great Expectations itself. Before I close, I would quickly like to share a summary of today's session. Well, as I have earlier said that I introduced in this session to you the novel Great Expectations. I started with an introduction to the author of Great Expectations, that is Charles Dickens. With this we moved on to the times when Great Expectations was written. I also presented to you the setting of the novel. Genre and form of the novel itself was discussed because it would help a lot in understanding the novel later on. Plot and structure of the novel and its division into three parts, completing the full circle, moving from country life to London and back to country life, is all discussed in detail. Then I discussed important themes that are incorporated by Charles Dickens in his work, and finally I gave you an introduction to all the major and minor characters of Great Expectations, the novel that is written by Charles Dickens. With this we come to the end of today's session. This is a quick view of the works that are consulted for present session. Thank you very much.